Welcome to the Unusual History of Everything, the podcast that uncovers the unusual history of everything around us. I'm Karen Lacey.
And I'm Melanie Dellis. On this episode, as we gear up for Halloween, we thought we'd chip away at the stony exterior of gargoyles and see what historical goodies we can find.
The word gargoyle comes from the French gargoyle, or gorgue, which means throat, fitting as the early gargoyles served as waterspouts with water coming from their throats and out their mouths. The Italians call gargoyles docione o grande sporgente, which means protruding gutter. And the Germans say Wasserspeer, which means water spewer. And then there's a Dutch word for gargoyle, which is water spewer, translating the fun water vomiter. All slightly different, but meaning the same thing. Gargoyles basically took in the rainwater and threw it up so it didn't hit the buildings.
Although the gargoyle as we know it today stems from medieval France, in ancient Egypt, Greece, and Rome, an early form of the gargoyle took shape first. In all three lands, these gargoyles were carved into waterspouts and placed on the roofs of temples. However, they were in the shape of lion heads and mythological creatures, such as the Greek chimera. In Greece, at the Temple of Zeus in Olympia, you can still see 39 of the 102 marble lion heads that continue to keep rainwater away from the temple walls. In ancient Egypt, although they were still rainspouts, they were meant to keep the temples safe from the rains of Seth, who was a god that apparently sent destructive rains down in vengeance for disobedience.
Thinking about Egypt today and, the desert and all the sand, why would they think of rain as being destructive? Do you know, I'd be like, rain, I would associate a god with rain to being like, oh, thank you for giving us water because we live in a desert environment.
No, but you're forgetting that back then it wasn't a desert.
You're right.
It was green and it had rain.
It's true.
It was a completely different landscape.
That's very true.
Yeah, and that's where it all stems from.
Sometimes it's hard to remember that.
It is, because it's been 10,000 years.
Yeah. Lionhead gargoyles have also been found on the villas and buildings in Pompeii. For example, in the ruins of the House of Vedi, the atrium roof still has its terracotta lionhead waterspouts that used to pour the water into the pools below. The oldest known gargoyle is 13,000 years old and was found in what is known today as Turkey. This gargoyle, again, didn't look like what we think it would. This one was in the shape of a stone crocodile. Modeling gargoyles after local animals like lions and crocodiles was common during this time and remained a popular thing to do all the way into medieval times. Dogs and eagles became the sculpture of choice for gargoyle waterspouts, as dogs were seen as guardians of the home, and eagles were said to be the only thing that could kill a dragon. But we'll get to that in a minute.
Let's fast forward to the Middle Ages. There was a period during this time when architecture, specifically that of religious buildings, chose not to add gargoyle waterspouts because they were said to be associated with paganism and, oddly enough, the sin of pride. I say oddly enough because what they began to put on the buildings instead were waterspouts in the form of notable community figures, benefactors, priests or bishops, and even the men who designed the buildings. No pride there.
Soon, however, in the 7th century, a story of a French bishop fighting a dragon popped up, and that became the inspiration for the gargoyle designs we have today. It all began with a fire-breathing, water-breathing dragon named La Gargoyle, which lived in the Seine River near the French town of Rouen. La Gargoyle would swallow ships and flood the town, killing many people. So when a priest named Romanus, aka Saint Romain, paid the town a visit to try to get them to convert to Christianity, the people told him of their plight. He saw they were in fear of this watery beast, so he made a deal with them to convert to Christianity, and he would kill the beast and save the town. The people didn't think twice. I wouldn't think twice either.
No, I wouldn't either. Sounds like a good deal.
Especially if it was real, right?
Mm-hmm.
They agreed, and Saint Romain went out, found the beast, made the sign of a cross, and captured it. He then proceeded to burn the dragon at the stake. However, its head and neck would not burn, so he nailed it above the entryway of the church. There's another version of this story that changes the first part a little bit. And this story, it has him using a crucifix and the help of a condemned man. Today, to commemorate this each year, the Archbishop of Rouen pardons a man during the parade of the relic of St. Romanus.
Oh, lucky guy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, his reasoning for putting the head of the dragon on the church was twofold. He wanted to show the townspeople the beast was dead and that now it was time to honor their agreement and become Christian. Second, it was a symbol that outside the church evil lurked, but inside God would save your soul. Seems like a pretty good deal, and many people agreed. Architects soon created what we call the Gothic style and began designing those grand cathedrals we know today, like Notre Dame, complete with gargoyle waterspouts in the shape of a dragon, dog, eagle hybrid creature. Sometimes with wings, sometimes without. Even today, you can find gargoyle waterspouts for your home or office building, like the Chrysler Building in New York, which has several stainless steel ones. You can even buy some to guard your home. However, those aren't called gargoyles. Non-waterspout sculptures like that are known as grotesques.
One modern-day twist to the gargoyle story is the renovations made during the 1990s to the Chapel of Bethlehem. The chapel was originally built during the Middle Ages, but was near ruins in 1990. While performing renovations, a stone carver named Jean-Louis Bazol was tasked with the creation of 28 new gargoyles. He must have been given a lot of leeway because his final creations included gremlins and Gizmo from the movie Gremlins. I know. And various aliens inspired from the movie of the same name. Those must look terrifying. I saw some pictures and I'm like, no,
wait a second. So he's got like the alien-looking gargoyle, quote-unquote gargoyles, mixed in with little gizmos. They're so cute.
There's only one or two gizmos. Most of them are the gremlins, which are not so cute, if you remember the movie.
Oh, yeah, because they got water on them and they turned, or they ate after midnight or something, and they turned a little bit mean. But still, they're still much cuter than the little aliens in that movie.
Definitely.
Oh, I want to see that. I'll try to find a picture of that and put it up on our social media.
There's a couple of them out there. He also has some other things up there, but basically, at first, many were not happy about it, except for the youth in the village in that area, because they were like, oh my gosh, these are movies from our childhood, and they've like come to life on this really old building, and so it's like this blending of like the past and the present, and because of that, and because of their enthusiasm, the gargoyles were left in place and remain a curious new addition to the gargoyle story today. Well, that brings us to the end of our episode. You can follow The Unusual History of Everything on Instagram at The Unusual History of Everything and on Facebook at The Unusual History of Everything Podcast. And find our show notes on www.musecuratorial.com. The Unusual History of Everything is written, produced, and directed by Melanie Dellis and Karen Lacey.
New episodes air every Tuesday on all podcast outlets. Be sure to subscribe to us so you never miss an episode and leave us a review. You can also see photos from our episodes and more on our website, Instagram, and Facebook. Thanks for listening. I'm Melanie Dellis.
And I'm Karen Lacey, your host for The Unusual History of Everything.